What up, guys? Welcome to Music Blueprint. I am so pumped for today's podcast because I have one of my longtime friends. Golly, I don't even know how many years we've been friends now.
Um, well, we met
7?
7 years ago in Nashville this month.
This wow. Okay, anyways, we're gonna get into that. But I have the awesome Mike with me, and yeah, I'm just super pumped. He's going to talk about travel hacks, behind the scenes of being like a guitar tech, a drum tech. He even spent some time on the road doing merch. He has been in the industry for a really long time. Probably, if I would say you've been in the industry longer than me because you were in that band life in high school and doing all that stuff as well, which we will totally get into. So, everybody, welcome, Mike.
Hey,
Hey,
it's so good to see you because you
it's so good to see you too.
would have seen a lot more of each other last year. You know,
I know. Yeah, there was a time when you were supposed to be moving out to LA and coming out to the West Coast.
literally, my plan was to move to Los Angeles right now, January,
Right.
and
Uh,
well, instead, I lost all my work because
right.
it's not a thing anymore, and I even had to leave Nashville, and I moved back home with my parents.
Hey, you know what? I built a studio in my mom's house and I'm with my mom right now too. So, you know what?
That's what I
Can't don't knock it till you try it, right?
got the space now to have a little home set up and everything.
Right. It's actually not bad because our parents like I don't know about your parents, but my mom's like kind of rolling in it and I mean not rolling in it, but she's got a decent sized house. She lives outside of the city, so it's cheaper to get a house in Riverside than anywhere else, but I'm like, "Dang, she's got a 5-bedroom house."
Yeah,
I'm like,
that's and so like I
"What?"
have I made my own living room upstairs,
Yeah.
bedroom, now this little recording room, and yeah, it's like all right, it's okay, and like
Right.
I think probably because if I never had moved away before and lived on my
Mhm.
and had only just lived with my parents, then I would be questioning like my
Yes.
abilities as an adult. But now
Yes.
I could do it, but
Yeah.
instead of going into massive debt to sit in a different city where I can't do anything anyways, might as well
Right.
mom
That's
and dad.
literally exactly how I felt. Like, I really lucked out that my lease was up in March, right when COVID hit. And I actually was looking for a place. I was like, I'll just find another place in LA or whatever because I was supposed to go to New York for a month
Yeah.
and I was going to find a place when I got back, but obviously New York got smashed on. So I was like, I'm not I'm not going there. And my mom was just like, "Why don't you just come here? Like, you'll save a couple months on rent and all these things." I don't think she knew that it was gonna be a year later.
I didn't either, 'cause I thought by summertime we'd be back to doing gigs in this. Because like a year ago, literally a year ago, I landed in Hong Kong, and is the same day Hong Kong shut down from the pandemic, January.
Oh my
And I'm like,
god.
shut down, I'm just kicking it with my cousin. That's cool. I'm going to Singapore in a few days. That's dope. And then
Right.
a couple days later, and they shut down.
Oh, worst trip to Asia ever.
In New Zealand to start the tour I was supposed to do. Just
Right.
a few days before they shut the border. I'm like, oh, cool. So I'm in New Zealand, do the tour, get to do the Australia tour, get in right before they stop accepting all flights from Asia. So I got to do a tour last year in February, and
Wow.
then after that we came back to the States, did one weekend, and everything. Yeah, everything shut down. But it's been interesting, trying to find the odd jobs and
Oh, for sure. I'm right there with you with the odd jobs. Like, I have done some random stuff, like everything from voiceovers. I've done a lot of voiceover work recently, which is weird. Like, I'm talking about like random videos from Indonesia. They need an English speaker to talk about their air conditioning unit that they're trying I mean, just random.
never thought about it that way because I know like when like U.S. media goes across the world, there's a lot of voiceovers for translating into their local languages. I never thought of
Mhm.
vice versa in other countries to have English speaking voiceovers. And
Yeah, yeah. I really lucked out that I have this one friend that I kinda ironically, we went to school with. His name's Toby, but he was kind of, like, super introverted. He was the, like, foreign exchange student kinda kid, and he was friends with, this guy, Keith, that I knew in the music department, and he needed a vocal person, a kind of an everything person. So I've done a lot of random things with him, like writing for blogs and yachts to like voiceover work. It's kind of been great. And it always shows up randomly. So I'm like, you know what? It always comes at the right time.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yes. Okay, so tell all the music blueprint people listening right now, talk a little bit about like you as a musician, and just tell a little bit about yourself and how you got into the industry and everything like that.
Sure. What's up, Music Blueprint people? My name is Michael Rickerby, and I am half Chinese and half Irish. It is very
Irish.
my identity that you know my ethnicity. Person, only American in my family. Um, However, I am a dual citizen with the United Kingdom. None of this matters for music.
Right.
Well,
Although it makes traveling really easy.
yeah, multiple passports. But now that with Brexit happening, I'm applying for my Irish passport to still be an EU citizen. That's a whole different thing.
Wow.
Born in the suburbs of Chicago, started playing drums in church on my 9th birthday. From there, learned bass, taught myself guitar. I took a preparatory piano class in college, and that's it. I can play the white
I could play in C major.
transpose button. Otherwise, I'd never get by. But I grew up with a lot of church playing, and then middle school, I started my first band, screamo band. I was the screamer, and
Rock on.
multiple different bands, and that's when I started really gigging out, and that was fun. Um, and then 7 years ago, as Gene and I mentioned in the beginning, we were both in Nashville. We met. We were at an exchange program at this school out there. She was there for uh, what was the track? Artist track, so songwriting and
Mhm.
recording and all that stuff. And I was there to learn about music business. And that's where we became friends. And from being in Nashville, I moved there and I decided to take a year off school and see if I could find a job in the music industry. Figuring I was already in Nashville. If I was going to find one, better do it now than wait 2 more years, finish school, and try to move back. So I did. In the 11th month of my 1 year, I gave myself in Nashville. My roommate at the time was doing merch for a band, and they were looking for their first guitar tech.
Mm.
Recommended me to do it, and I was like, "Dude, can I do that?" So
Is that a thing that you people pay me for?
guitar tech, like I don't know how to build a guitar, but then when I talked to the production manager about everything that needed to be done, I'm like, oh, guitar. So like all the things I do for myself as a guitar player, but just for someone else. So
Right.
yeah, I can do that. So I went on my first tour, and yeah, that was 6 years ago. And so
Wow.
for 6 years, I've been touring with various artists and traveling the world in my free time.
And traveling a lot, which I think actually leads into the thing that one of the things that I'm most interested about and most interested in knowing about, which you to me are I don't maybe an expert at? I don't even know. I mean, you have nailed this down is the travel hacks. You have been able to and when I'm telling you like constantly when I'm texting Mike or like just like catching up with him, he's like, "Yeah, I just like went to Singapore, then like went to Korea or like what I don't even know if you've even been to Korea, but like it's literally like this long list of like the places that he's been. And I just got back and I was like, oh, like were you there on tour? And he's like, no, 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 this was just for me. Like on tour, we went here. It's like there's the long list of whatever. But he's been able to do it in a way that um I don't know, it's financially the savviest way. So why don't you start there and start talking about like how you figured out the airline hacks and the credit card hacks and all of that stuff?
So, I mean, I gotta give a shout out. It's not like I discovered this all on my own. I always
Mm.
reference this website called thepointsguy.com. Basically,
Mm.
anything you want to know about anything travel wise, points, credit cards, what airline policies are changing, especially with COVID being a thing now. They're always giving up to date um, news on airline regulations, country regulations in relationship to COVID. So I
Mm.
follow them. Uh, and it's like the only like Instagram account that I follow that's not a friend of mine that I actually care and read. Well, anyways, yeah, ever since I was like, I remember I was 15 years old, and my family had just moved to Tulsa, Oklahoma, and I wanted to go back and visit all my friends in Illinois for the homecoming. But I remember like I'm like, well, I was 15. I didn't have money. I couldn't buy
Right.
and my parents said, "Oh, well, we have some airline miles we can use for you." I'm like, "Airline miles? What's that?" So that was my first introduction to ever realizing, like, oh, airline award miles, free flight.
Right. That's gonna be for me.
So the older I get, the more and more I look into like how to travel without breaking the bank, and that's the biggest key. Like there's a few things like that come to mind when I think about this, and if I'm talking to somebody about travel, like for instance, like I had to go to Nashville a few weeks ago, and so my process whenever I'm like, okay, I'm going here, what's the best way to get there? So I always think the difference between flying versus driving.
Right.
It's almost a myth that driving's always cheaper, and you have the time, just drive. That's not necessarily true. Yesterday, oh, I should mention, I look up random flights for fun. I'm weird. Like when I sit at a coffee shop and I have no more emails, I just research random flights to random places in the world for fun at random times of the year.
Wow, you have a lot of time on your hands.
Well, never, but like before, it was a bit more around like, well, I have a 2 week break from tour here. Where
Right,
should I go? Should I go to Cape Town? Should I go back to London? Where should I go?
right.
But so like for instance, like Chicago to Las Vegas, very long drive. You're gonna spend a good amount of money in gas.
Mhm.
American Airlines will sell you a plane ticket to Las Vegas from Chicago for $42 right now.
Wow. Okay, I will say cheaps. Flights right now are so cheap. I just got a round trip ticket from LA to Fort Lauderdale, actually through Southwest, $152 round trip.
Amazing. Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, the first thing I always look at is driving versus flying. Another
Mhm.
thing I do think about in that equation is the city where I'm going to. Will I need a car? Because if so,
Mm,
I have to budget in a rental car expense as well. Um,
yes.
my thing is I never spend money without getting rewarded for it.
Ooh,
People like think, oh, credit cards are so bad and this and that. Well, they are if you're irresponsible.
right. Correct.
Today, if you pay off your bill in full every month, guess what? There's no interest. And guess what? Every time you use that credit card, they're rewarding you somehow. And so I should have brought my wallet. I could show the different cards, but what
I mean, I feel like you're talking sexy right now. Like, I never spend anything without getting rewarded for it. Like,
spending $1 without getting rewarded for it's a waste of $1.
right.
I'm always earning miles or points, um, or even cash back with some of my credit cards for every
Mhm.
purchase I do, because eventually those points or miles add up and they'll get you a free flight. Uh,
Yes.
let's see.
And I think what I'll add to that as well is I one of the reasons why I think it's really important to understand certain travel hacks and points and all these different things is because for me when I was a touring musician, which I still am, but obviously with current things, yeah, things have changed. But when I was out there playing 125 shows a year, every buck that you save or that you multiply, it I can't explain to you how much that compounds in the end. That like literally going from saving, even if you saved like, I don't know, 6 flights a year or like 6 tanks of gas or whatever, like that adds up over time to where you'll go from making 30K a year to possibly 50K a year just because you were smart on how you managed your money and how you got your money to work for you.
Right. It's just being frugal because
Mhm.
it's like the thing I was thinking of is like credit cards aren't the only way to earn miles. There's so
Right.
many other ways. My Lyft account, for example, anytime I order a Lyft and I take a Lyft, well,
Mm.
it's linked to my Delta Airlines account. So I earn 1 mile with Delta Airlines for every dollar I spend on Lyft.
Hmm.
And then the credit card I have linked with Lyft gives me points for each dollar I spend. So I'm also earning points on my Lyft
Right.
as the Delta miles. Airbnb has a partnership with Delta as well, where every dollar you spend on Airbnb gives you a Delta mile.
Mm.
And then, of course, every dollar I spend on Airbnb, I'm getting points for on my credit card again. Uh,
Right.
Another thing is if you're loyal to a specific airline, it's worth it to anytime we're going to buy something online, which if you didn't buy stuff online before 2020, you definitely do now.
Mhm.
Ever
Right.
buy stuff online, all you have to do is go through an airline's portal to your favorite website and you will earn miles for everything you buy. Like I just bought a new Sonos soundbar for myself not too long ago, and
Mm.
I went to the American Airlines portal, and they were like, "Hey, we're going to give you 3 miles for every dollar you spend on Sonos right now." I'm like, "Great!
Wow.
I'm earning on my credit card for buying that purchase." So there's all these different things, and the cool thing about the airline shopping portals, like it's annoying to go like AmericanAirlines.com first, and then go shopping and blah blah. On Google Chrome, if you use Google Chrome, there's a little widget you can add, the American Airlines shopping widget up in the right hand corner. It's just always on. And so anytime I go to a site and it says, like, I go to Lululemon, all of a sudden it'll pop down and say, "Hey, just so you know, you're going to earn 5 miles for every dollar you spend on Lululemon today." And I'll be like,
Oh my gosh. What in the heck? Okay, hold on. You
3 miles.
guys, like what? Say that again?
3 miles on top of your credit card miles.
Right.
There's no catch or gimmick. Like
Yeah.
when we saying travel hacks, I'm like, really, there's no hack. It's just learning the system.
Yes. Yeah, and I totally agree with that. Like and I think what there's a catch 22 with a credit card, right? Like if you're irresponsible, you're going to get screwed over, right? But if you're responsible and you realize like how to utilize something to your advantage, credit card companies are hoping, and honestly they're right 99% of the time, that people are not going to understand the benefits of having their credit card. They're hoping on the fact, or are convinced that most of the people, which they're right, will not understand that you can I didn't even know you could go through a portal, like through American Airlines, go through a portal, find the website, and then get triple, even times five, the amount of points that you could get. Like, I didn't even know that. So, again, it's like when you go to get a credit card, or you're thinking about trying to figure out this whole, I know Mike was like, it's not really a travel hack, it's just information. But when you're trying to figure these things out, you really got to do research. Like it's not just about just finding a credit card that's just like a random one that like is running a special where you'll get like a $50,000 bonus, point signing or whatever.
Great at first. You know how many sign up bonuses I've done? You know how many credit cards I've signed up for and then canceled before the annual fee came in? A lot of these airlines are like,
What is your credit like though?
"Oh, I'm still at like a high 700."
Oh, okay. That's pretty good.
Yeah,
Well,
I
yeah,
mean,
obviously, if you have so much credit, I mean, part of credit is how much money are they willing to loan you out, right? Like,
and it's like they're my available credit limit between credit cards is so massive. I'm like, man, like 5 years to earn that amount of money if I actually used all of it. No,
yeah. What if you got to the point too? This would be very interesting to me. And I think there's a guy that does this on YouTube. I can't think of his name. Maybe you know him. But he basically got as many credit cards as he would or as he could, and then took that amount of money, like, took the money out that he could have in his line of credit. And it was like something crazy. But the price point of investment versus the amount, so I think it was like something like, I wanna say it was like 500K or something like that. So he got, just from credit cards, he pulled out 500K, right? Which is crazy. I mean, the amount of tax or like, interest that you would get from pulling out money from a credit card is nuts. But anyways, when he took that amount of money out, and I can't remember what he did with it, but he either invested it or something, but that price point returned him like $10 million or something like that. It was insane. It's
what
insane. I'm gonna hopefully try to find the video and put it in the link below, like in this description below.
I mean, like I've been trying to get into stocks and investments lately, and
Oh, me too.
I don't know what to do. All I know is I'm so thankful about Bitcoin years ago because now it's balling.
Dude, and this is a little side note. I don't have a lot of information about this yet because I have to do more research. So don't, if you're gonna make a decision to do this and buy Bitcoin, don't base it off of me. Do your own research. But what I found out recently, from different interviews and stuff like that, was that um, Bitcoin is now not only gonna be involved in banks pretty soon, like in terms of currency, banks are now figuring out a way to utilize it, but also um I can't remember exactly how it's going down, but there's something going on with Tesla and Bitcoin right now as well.
Yeah.
Right, right, yeah, freaking Tesla always has an in on it. But in terms of they're finding that there is one of his missions to space is that this is such a tangent and such a rabbit trail we're going down, but I love it. Is that he's finding one of the reasons he's going to space is that there is a lot more gold out in the space realm that he can extract. And I'm when I'm talking about like a lot more gold, I'm not talking about like what the earth has provided us gold. I'm talking about so much gold that it's going to devalue the price of gold.
Wow.
And that transaction, what they're predicting is because right now all of every country that you can think of, their value as a country is based on gold. So
Yep.
when that gets devalued, the thing that's going to switch is it's going to go to Bitcoin.
I
It's going
believe
to
it.
be crazy. Anyways, really look into Bitcoin, guys.
I mean, I had a friend that used to work in crypto, so I've heard all of the things that are gonna happen. But like, this was like a few years ago. He's telling me about it. Now I'm like, oh, we're starting to see it becoming valuable.
Mhm.
That's cool. But I
Yeah,
mean,
and when Bitcoin first came out, there was like this huge push, right? And then it like, quote unquote plummeted, right? And then people thought, "Oh, that was it. It was just a fad." But what people aren't realizing is it's not a fad. Like there are full countries right now, like all of Venezuela. Um I don't want to talk about government in Venezuela because I don't really know, but supposedly through some friends of mine who are Venezuelan, they've said that they use Bitcoin for their sole currency between citizens because the government's taking their money or whatever, and so they've solely have made transactions on Bitcoin because it prevents the government from taking their money.
dang. Well, I mean, you can send Bitcoin through the Cash App. I could send you Bitcoin,
Hmm.
but
I'm
yeah,
telling you. Sorry. So okay, so continue. You were talking about like using the portal through and now you have like a widget in Google Chrome where you don't even have to go through American Airlines or Delta's portal
the web.
to yeah, the actual website to do that.
Yep. Um, I mean, yeah. So that's a great thing for free miles, even if you don't use credit cards. I have a few friends like they have bad credit, can't get one, or
Mm,
some of them are like, oh, I messed up with credit cards in the past. I don't want another one. That's fine. There's still other ways to earn miles.
mm,
That's you rent a car. A lot of car rental agencies have partnerships with airlines. So if you're not interested in earning points with your car rental agency, uh, earn them with the airline they're associated with. If I make an Avis rental, I get American Airline miles for my car rental.
yeah.
Not to mention, Avis has a partnership with Amazon Prime. I'm not sure about some of the other rental,
Mm.
but I get a discounted rate on all my Avis rentals because of Amazon Prime. I have Amazon Prime. That
Oh my God. I didn't even know that Amazon Prime had that hookup.
right. And so like whenever like an airline or car rental agency sends you an email, it's so easy to just be like, well, I didn't book a trip, so I don't really care about your promotion. Delete.
Hmm.
It's worth reading into it real quick. Most of the time, it is just like book now for a blah, and you're like, okay, nothing, delete. But every once in a while, they'll be like, hey, do you have Amazon Prime? Just want to let you know if you link your Prime account to your car rental account, you'll get discounts. Cool.
Right.
Amazon gift cards every time I have a car rental from Avis now too. So I'm like, cool, that was an email worth reading. So it's always worth opening them up, skimming them. Uh,
Yes.
and this is we talked about Bitcoin, all these different things. Until Bitcoin becomes a worldwide currency accepted at all major retailers, one of the advantages to having credit cards is having no foreign transaction fee when you're international.
Hmm.
Every credit card has this, but a lot of them do. Because if you're going to pull money out of an ATM overseas, there's a chance that your debit card may not be supported overseas.
Yes.
Secondly, you're going to have an international fee, your bank fee, the bank that you're drawing the money from fee, currency exchange fee. It's a nightmare.
It's a nightmare. And I can say this from experience as well. Like when I went to Asia, I was in the middle of nowhere, Indonesia. Like we're not talking about like a major city. Like I was in the middle of nowhere and I was trying to find an ATM, which luckily, if I found an ATM, all the ATMs did take my debit card, so I could pull money out, which was lucky enough. And I did do some research beforehand to make sure, like, I had a credit card that was wildly accepted. everywhere. And usually like you're fine with like Visa. American Express is getting better, but those are the ones like American Express is like hit or miss. But I luckily just had a Visa, and so luckily got out of the middle of nowhere and found an ATM and was able to pull out cash
Yep.
because a lot of like little things that you want to buy in certain places like that, they only take cash.
Yep.
So it was kind of a pain in the butt because I couldn't even use my credit card, which I would have preferred because then I would have gotten points on it and yada yada yada. But yeah, so it's definitely what Mike is saying is so true.
Right. It's always good to travel with a little bit of actual cash because it's cheaper to exchange your actual cash at a bank. There's still going
Mhm.
to be some fee involved, but to exchange some actual cash is good. Like for example, when I'm in Hong Kong, I still have foreign currency currently on me of countries I go to frequently. I bring
That's
of
that's
Europe
all of us, dude. All of us. I still have a ton of money.
because I go to these countries at least once a year. I'm always in London. Well, I used to be in London. I was supposed to move there in July last
Oh,
year.
dude, I was right there with you, man. I was like wanting to move there with you so bad.
Um, anyways, yeah, cash still rules. Like here's a funny thing. The new like contactless payment, when I say new, this is for
Mm.
the US listeners. US listeners think it's new. Everyone else in the world, we know you've had it for like a decade. Contactless payment has been a thing all over Asia and Europe. It's just
Mhm.
for years. Like I was
Mhm.
using Apple Pay over there before anyone in the United States would accept an Apple Pay. Um, and now it's coming to the States. However, even though the like in Europe, contactless payments are everywhere. There's still places in Europe where, like, I remember being in the Netherlands 2 years ago, or 2 or 3 years ago, and the entire town did not accept any credit card, not even Visa. They only accepted the what do you call Netherlandians?
I have no idea. A
Uh,
farthing?
I'm really bad. I traveled so
Talking
it's
about currency or what they're called?
the people, whatever. They didn't take anything outside of the like National Bank of Netherlands credit card or
Oh,
euros. And I
wow.
I couldn't even go to an ATM and pull out euros because it wouldn't accept my Visa debit card. you know?
Oh my god. That's a situation where you hope that one of your friends, will let you, like, Venmo or Cash App them, like, "Hey, do you have something? Let me just."
Problem was I was there for tour and we were a bunch of Americans, so none of us
Oh,
had it
no.
either. We're like, okay, I guess we can't even get McDonald's right now. Or when I'm in Hong Kong, I always play the Hong Kong taxi in cash.
Mm,
It's always good to have a little bit of cash on you. You never know when you're gonna need it.
yeah.
However, careful, and I wouldn't recommend taking too much because when I was in Venice, Italy, I got pickpocketed and
Oh,
$250 just went bye bye all at once.
no. Yeah, you definitely have to have it even if you happen to decide to bring a lot of cash, which I wouldn't recommend either,
Mhm.
um, separate it in different places, so it's not just all on you at once, so it just can't all be lifted at once.
Yep.
I've heard horror stories about Italy and on the bus and stuff. I mean, they're just pickpocketing people all the time. I've heard so much stuff like that.
Plane ticket in Italy without it. As you're logging out to buy your ticket, the screen pauses before it actually gives you your ticket and says, "Beware of pickpocketers. Beware
Yeah.
of pickpocketers." And I should have been more, but I wasn't on a train. I was walking through an alley in Venice trying to get to the water taxi to get to the airport.
Right. Yeah, you would and Italy's to me not a place that I would think of getting pickpocketed.
Yeah.
Like, I actually when I was in Bali, so in Bali and in Indonesia in general, like the scooter game is on another level. I mean, like look up videos about Indonesia driving and like scooters, and you'll see like the road has like thousands and thousands. There's more scooters on the road than cars. Like imagine like the 405 freeway and it's flooded with scooters and they're all weaving in and out. Yeah, it's crazy. And so anyways, Ben and I when we got to Bali, we were like, "Oh, we Ben's driven scooters all of his life. Like we'll be fine." He was like, "You can ride on the back or whatever." And I said, "Are you sure?" And he was like, "Yeah, yeah, I feel pretty confident." He was like, "Obviously it's a little different, but I'll just drive slow or whatever." So I'm like, "Cool." Well, lucky enough, like, right before, my friend that was out there was like, "Hey, if you guys are gonna ride the scooter, make sure, like, don't have your backpack on your back. Put it on the front of you. And if you're looking at directions on your phone, don't have your phone far out from your body." He was
Right.
like, "I've seen it too many times where somebody's driven by on a scooter and just grabbed the phone and then you're stuck without a phone. And then like how do you even get home?" I mean, like it's just a whole scenario. So you definitely, no matter where you are, be aware that there are people preying on the non-citizen, the vacationer,
Yep.
and they all know what we look like.
Yeah. Absolutely. Like, just to contribute to what you were saying, like when I was in Johannesburg, people told me like when I'm sitting in the back of a cab or something, don't have your phone out. I'm like, what? Don't have your phone out because people will break through the window, steal your phone, and drive off on their moped or scooter.
Craziness.
You know,
Crazy, crazy, craziness.
gotta be careful around the world. I've come really close to like really terrible disasters before in my travels too. It's always good to be alert and aware. You want to enjoy
Yeah,
but
right.
or
Yeah,
like
you don't really wanna be on your phone anyways, but, again, like, for me, it was like if you have to do directions or you want to take a picture and document it or like whatever, but the best case scenario is just try to be aware, and again, don't have too much cash on you because if that happens, it's way better to lose $200 than $2,000, right? And you can I was
I'd
look
rather
I
if it
yeah
forced
I
me to credit cards at my hotel room in case my wallet ever gets stolen or
right.
screwed because you can cancel a credit card. It's no money on
Right,
me.
exactly. Yeah, and I was real, I don't trust no one. So I didn't even trust like the maids or no one. Like I would hide my computer and cuz my cousin has had his computer stolen. I think I think he was in Indonesia when it happened. I feel like I'm smashing on Indonesia right now, which I'm not. It's just the main Asian country I've been to. But but yeah, he had his computer stolen. They had just left their stuff in their hotel room and and somebody just let him in and stole all their stuff. So I'm like real like not trusting with it. I'll like put the computer like in a pillowcase, or like I'll put like under the bed, like between the bed frame and the bed, and I'll just hide things to where they can't get everything at once. So like
Right.
one time I put like um my cash in like a coffee cup that was like up in the cabinet. Who's gonna look there? Nobody's gonna look there. Yeah, like what in the heck? So again, just you don't maybe have to be as intense as I am, but just be aware.
Totally. Being aware. You know, I just want to mention that traveling the world is amazing and I really miss it. This is the longest
Yes.
I have stayed in the United States of America in the last 6, 7 years and
Oof.
to get out.
Yeah. I
Even
think we all feel
except
the
for
same.
2018 when I went to every major continent besides Antarctica because who cares? It's too cold.
Who cares? That's how I feel about Antarctica too. Ben's always trying to convince me to go to he's like, "Wouldn't you wanna go?" And I'm like, "Not really.
Okay,
It's
I
like
was
an
like,
ice cap."
"1 day
Like
trip just to be able to say I saw it and see it with my own eyes.
yeah.
No, like the shortest trip I think is a week, maybe it's 2, something like that.
Yeah, you can't go there longer than a week, and you have to get approved or something like that.
Y you can't get there for less than $10,000 either.
Oh.
That's before you even think about buying your flights to wherever you have to go, and, it's
Right. You're like, "F off, Antarctica."
too expensive. For that amount of money, I'm gonna go ball out in Singapore or
Right, exactly. Yeah, it's just to me, it's just if it happened, cool. You know what I mean? Like it's cool to say that I've been on every continent. That would be dope. But I'm not trying to go out of my way to get to Antarctica. You know what I mean?
consider it.
Right. Right. And if I had enough dough, maybe I would. Maybe just to say I did it, maybe. But like currently, I don't have enough dough to drop. There's too many other places in the world that I want to see right now than Antarctica.
Yeah, absolutely. I
Okay,
mean,
so tell me really quick, because I want to get into some of the other things that you've done, but what would be if you were if the audience was gonna walk away with like one major point and one thing that you think is maybe the smartest thing you learned in terms of travel hacks, what do you think that would be?
alright, I'm gonna say a few statements here.
Okay.
There's all around flights because unless you fly frequently, you never really learn these things. And even people that do fly all the time don't really know or take advantage. Um, there's a myth. I'm starting. There's a myth that last minute that there's cheap last minute flights. There was years ago.
Mm.
More. If you find a flight that leaves within 24 hours that's $40, it was always $40. That's cool. It's a great price. But just letting
Right.
you know, people are like, oh man, it's $200 right now for the flight. Maybe I'll wait and see if it goes down. No, they only go up.
Right.
So just remember that. Round trips are cheaper. That's not always true. In the
Mm.
United States, doesn't matter. Your fare, whether you book it round trip or one way, are all the same price. A round trip is just basically two one ways in the United States. And
Mm.
in my opinion, I like booking those itineraries separate because,
Mm.
especially with COVID and everything changing now, if you have two one way flights, you can change the individual flight easier than the entire round trip if you have to change something.
Got you.
However, round trips are cheaper when you're flying to international countries.
Okay.
One way flight to London is about the same price as a round trip ticket to London, which is I'm exaggerating a little bit, but
Right.
look it up. Um, the cheapest flight isn't always the best flight. That's the best thing I could probably say to anyone. People
Mm.
always are looking for the cheapest flight on Skyscanner, Kayak, Expedia, wherever. The cheapest flight is not always the best flight. Beware of budget airlines.
Mm.
Budget airlines. I was flying Frontier Airlines for almost like 6 months straight, going from Nashville, New Jersey, because it was the cheapest. It was $100 round trip. Amazing. However, if I wanted to pick a seat ahead of time, it cost me anywhere from $3 to $10. If I wanted to bring a carry-on bag besides my backpack, it
Oh,
like $30, I believe it was, and then a
yeah.
check-in bag was 20. So I ended up just doing check-in bags. But you got to remember, not everyone includes the carry-on bag. And when I say budget airlines, I also beware of basic economy. Basic economy is a major airline basically acting like a budget airline for you. If you're traveling with nothing other than your backpack, go for it. But
Right.
if you're like me, I always have at least a bag with me. So be wary of budget airlines. Think about the check bags. Everyone loves Southwest because everyone gets 2 free check bags.
Correct. And
Uh,
Southwest has such good customer service, if we're being honest, too. Like, that's what really draws me to them at the end of the day. Like,
it is
I
Southwest for customer service.
yeah, yeah. Their customer service is out of here. They never like m- although like I know you've got cards with United and American, which has worked to your advantage, which the beauty of that is they have like first class, business class, all these different classes. They have like little rooms you can go to beforehand.
Lounges,
Uh yeah, the lounges. Yeah. The
is the
lounges are really great.
when I'm
Say
flying.
that again?
You the lounges is a huge thing. I've saved
Yeah.
tens of thousands of dollars at the airport going to lounges and having my memberships because of my status. And the
Mhm.
why, for example, the reason why Americans might go to U.S. airline is not because I like them the best or anything like that. American, you've always been good to me. Just gotta say that. Thank you. That status, and then it's their international partners. My biggest international cities will be like London and like Hong Kong, which both of the airlines based in those cities are partners with American. So I get more flight options, usually cheaper flights, and they're my hubs, and all the status accumulates together. I didn't requalify for it this year, but early last year I still had the highest tier of status you could have with One
Mm.
World Airlines, which was great, which meant first class lounges, even if I wasn't flying in first class, complimentary upgrades to business, like where you get your own little cubicle and like bed in the sky. Um, you know, and the food and the drinks are all elevated. It's great because
Yeah,
I
so
flew a lot.
yes,
But airline,
so even think about too, I'll interject really quick, like, think about how much money that you would save on food because those lounges are stocked with food, they're stocked with drinks, they're stocked with certain things, and so, like, yeah, you spent money on a flight or whatever, but the return of it the ROI, return of investment on having a high level membership returns a lot more things than just something that's monetary. Like it saves you money, but you're not really thinking about the fact that when you're being fed, that you didn't have to go to the airport and basically spend an arm and a leg to get a freaking chicken wing or a crappy sandwich. Like, you know what I mean?
yep, exactly. The last thing I'll say along these lines is, the cheapest flight isn't always the best flight. Think about how often you fly. if you're flying less than 20 flights a year, look into basically, the good cheapest good option for you to fly, you
Mm.
know? If you're gonna fly more than 20 flights in a year, definitely look into what airline is gonna serve you the best, because then you will start getting status with that airline, which then includes more of these free perks. Each airline includes different perks with different status. It's something to look into. Um, it's it'd take me like an hour to talk about each airline specifically here. You can research all this on the internet. It's great.
Right. And
Um,
maybe we'll do another video too that's just purely travel hacks and we can like dive into like each different airline and why you chose what you chose and whatever. We're trying to give like a quick synopsis because I think there's more than just travel hacks of information that you have and experience you have in the industry. But yeah, when it comes to how many flights you're doing a year, and think about this guys too, like I don't have a credit card with Southwest, but Southwest has the Rapids Reward program. And every time, because I created an account, I didn't even have to have a credit card. I just created an account. Every time I buy a flight and I make sure to log in beforehand, and even afterwards, even if afterwards I can call them and say, "Hey, this is my flight. I forgot to use my login."
with your ticket number.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I've gotten points, and I've actually gotten 2 free flights last year, because of how many points I had on Southwest, and I didn't have a credit card with them, and I didn't have anything like that. So you just gotta be aware. That's basically it.
You said that because the very last thing I want to say before we talk about backline and different things is whenever you're booking anything travel related, never check out as a guest. Always create an account because even if you don't travel that much, one day you'll accumulate enough points or miles for something free.
Yeah, exactly, and I have accounts with, like, almost every airline because yeah, it's just like at one point, for some reason, the cheapest flight from LA to Seattle, and I was flying to Seattle a lot,
Yep.
was Alaska Airlines, and so then I created an account with Alaska Airlines, and now I almost have enough miles to get a free flight, at least for a one-way.
My Alaska Airlines credit card gives me a free companion pass every year. So once a year, me and a friend fly somewhere for two of us for the price of one with Alaska.
Yeah.
Another time, another episode to talk about that.
Yeah, it's freaking crazy. There's so many things. Okay, so yeah, let's I feel like we can go down the rabbit hole of this because there's so much information, but I really do want to get into like how you got started in running backline for tours. I know you touched on it a little bit when you were talking about like how you got started in the industry, but talk about too like what does a drum tech and a guitar tech entail?
Right. It can vary a bit depending on the artist and what they're specifically looking for, right? So like the first artist I ever guitar teched for, his name's Drew Holcomb. And so what he was basically looking for, or what their crew was looking for, was basically somebody to tunes Drew's guitars in between songs and then pass them off to him in between songs. Easy. Okay. I've been tuning my own guitars with capos for years, right? Um,
Mm.
and then the only thing outside of that was help the entire band set up and tear down their gear and help pack the trailer. So I was
Mhm.
basically just like a glorified guitar tuner that helped was an extra set of hands to help the band. Um, move along to when I was working with Ren Collective, a Christian band from Northern Ireland. My role as a guitar tech was uh, more guitar based instead of just helping out. We had another tech took care of keys and drums. So I did guitars and bass, and this also included then ukulele, mandolin, bouzouki, banjo.
Mm.
Google is an amazing tool. Change strings on the bouzouki. I was like, yeah, sure. And then I was like, what is a bouzouki? Uh,
You're like, "Is that a dessert from BJ's?"
it was great. It worked out. And so, yeah, I did all the guitars and took care of them, and then built risers. That was it.
Mm.
Obviously, packing and unpacking the trailer. Um,
So, let me say something too. A lot of times, like, no offense, Mike, but guitar tech, other than the fact that you had like some crazy instruments on the Ren Collective tour, a guitar tech is a pretty basic understanding. Like, just tune a guitar. Like, if you know how to tune a guitar, pretty easy, right?
Now, if things go wrong on the guitars, I gotta figure out how to fix it.
Right. Oh, okay, that's true too. But what I will say is how people decide if you're the person that's going to be guitar tech
Vibe.
is vibe. And I'll say that again. If you are not a vibe, fix why you're not a vibe. Because at the end of the day, you are on a tour for you're driving hours and hours and hours just to get to the next show, to the next thing. Everybody's exhausted. They're everybody's in a bad mood. Like it's set up to be in a bad mood, right? But the fact of the matter is if you are still a chill person and a cool person to hang with that everybody wants to grab a beer with after the show, that's what they're looking for. And that's even as like I've chosen people that aren't the best guitar player
Right.
because the other person that was maybe not as good as the other guy was more of a vibe to me than the other guy.
Who do you want to live with?
Right.
I understand tour's not glamorous. Not
It's
you.
not.
I know you know it's not, but anybody else, touring is not glamorous. Maybe like if you've had a one-off gig here and there and you think, oh, we traveled and played like two or three, that was fun. Yeah, it's exciting to go out and do gigs. But when you're stuck on a bus, you see a tour bus, you think, oh, it's so glamorous. 12 people live on that little thing.
Right.
12 people live on that little thing for 3 months straight. If you're not chill, it is a terrible time.
It's not fun.
The only thing you got is your little twin mattress coffin of a bunk.
Right. And you can't escape. That's why it's not fun.
No,
There's no escaping a bus that's driving for 10 hours and
especially when you can't poop on the bus.
right.
No, don't think that, but like, hey, you can't poop on the bus, so you get that's it. That's a thing that you never have thought about before in your life. Like pooping and scheduling out in your day on tour.
Yeah, you're like, "When can I poop?" That's so funny.
Tour sounds, but the little things all change.
It
Wake up
does.
in the morning, and then I pop out of the doors of the bus, not knowing what the temperature is unless I check my phone, and then I follow little arrows on the ground to tell me where catering is, where the backstage loading dock is. Every single day is completely different, and I have no idea where anything is. I'm like, if you wake up in the morning really having to go to the bathroom, that's terrible because you are for the very first time walking into a brand new building trying to read some arrows and you don't know how close or how far you are from the nearest toilet.
Oh god.
Tour's not that fun. The payoff is fun though. Like
Yes.
I'm not playing being a tech. It's cool when you see an arena full of people really like enjoying something that you're a part of and
Yes.
that energy. It's awesome.
Yeah,
But
nothing to me beats, live shows.
no,
That's I mean, it's again, like, think about the process, right? Like, you're writing a song to hopefully get it to a point where somebody sings it on a stage. Like, the whole thing is surrounded by a live performance. Like that's what it comes down to. And everybody who's a part of that live performance, it's just a cool freaking moment. And it's something that it's unparalleled. Like you can't find the energy that's like that. You can't like it's just it's hard to beat.
yeah, absolutely.
Which makes being on the bus when somebody poops and stinks up the whole bus worth it.
Yeah, kind of sometimes no.
Sometimes. Right. Now, okay, so then that kind of answers my question too of like on most of your tours, did you bus or did you fly? Or was it half and half?
So mostly bus, but there's been
Okay.
examples where I have flown. Like when I was with Matt Carney, we did all flying, and that's
Mm,
also because it was not economical to take the bus to in between all the places. They were just far enough away that you'd be spending so much money on overdrives and extra drivers,
right.
because there's a bunch of regulations, believe it or not, around commercial buses and how long drivers can drive and how many hours in a week they're allowed to drive and things. So, anyways, made more sense to fly everywhere. So we did that. We've in For another example, Australia I think has a total of like 2 or 3 tour buses in the entire country, and
Mm.
nobody ever uses them because they're terrible. Anybody that tours Australia flies everywhere. So when I was doing the Australia tour last year, we flew every day
Mm.
to get to the next gig. You
Wow.
it was exhausting. Did I have a mimosa and breakfast in the lounge every morning? Yes, I did. But it is exhausting to be like, I mean, goodness,
And with your points, you probably did better than all of your fellow bandmates because you had all those points and you had your like lounges and everything.
I was earning points because the band has to pay for my flights. Like, I'm winning. I took like I think I only took about 40 flights last year, and 30 of those were in the first 2 months. Um,
Oh my god.
over 100
So
flights.
imagine how many points that is, guys. Like literally every time he travels for himself, he's just flying for free,
Yeah,
basically.
yeah. So anyways, yeah. So all of those scenarios, flying. But
Mhm.
honestly, busing is way more economical if you're
Mm,
thinking about it. Buses on average, you can drive up to 8 hours in a night without worrying about overdrive or something like that, which I think they're getting rid of overdrive. I
mm.
haven't been on a bus in so long. I haven't talked to a bus driver in a while. I found out, but busing, because otherwise, think about this: if you're going from Chicago to St. Louis, is it more economical to have one tour bus taking 12 people or booking 12 flights and 12 hotel rooms?
Right.
And don't get me wrong, tour
Yeah.
buses are cheap. I would suggest anybody who's in a starting band or anything like that, or even if you're just a singer songwriter, but you bring a band and um, keep it in the van for as long as possible.
Yes.
And then as your crew expands, only move to the tour bus when you need the space to have that many people,
Yeah.
because the tour bus is a big expense. Um,
Mhm.
or the only other scenario would be like if your booking agent has set up such an extreme routing that it is going to be extremely tiresome and strenuous to sleep in a hotel and then drive the next day to each gig. Uh,
Yes.
and you can afford in your budget tour bus.
Yeah. Yeah, you need to think about it really comes down to price point and what's going to end up making you the most money. And what I'm saying is that's not only monetary value, that also means what kind of condition are you going to be in when you go to play that show?
Right.
Like because the show is making you the money, right? And one you want to be asked back to that place, but two, if you put on a good show that helps sell merch, that helps do all these different things that make you more money,
Mhm.
so it's not only about it's about your condition as well. Like it's yeah, it's about money and like okay, our flight's going to be more than driving. Okay, yeah, that plays a part in it. But it's also about like if you have to stay up all night driving, what condition are you going to be in the next day when you have to play a show? So, and the show is what's making you the money. So,
Gotta bring your A game every time. Like, will you get tired touring? Yes. But
mm,
can you still bring it? That's the important thing. How many times do we see like A-list celebrities? The further and further they get into a tour, and the more interviews they're doing, more tired and tired they're looking. And these are like we're talking about A-listers who they've got the most cushy tour setup that could
right.
possibly exist, still getting tired. You want to
Mhm.
know what my theory is?
What?
I have a theory that even though like on a plane or on a bus, even if you're doing your full night's sleep, the fact that your body, like in a bus, is traveling 60, 70 miles an hour at night, you're experiencing G forces for that entire amount of time. You might be asleep, but it's still wearing on your body. I don't know if there's specific science behind it,
Oh,
but
there so is.
like part of jet lag is not just the fact you're changing time zones. It's the
Mhm.
fact that your body's been traveling at 500 or more miles an hour for how many hours?
Yes.
In the air. You
And
might as
the people don't realize the amount of pressure because so for instance, when we're on a plane, we can walk around on a plane and it's fine, right? But the amount of pressure that plane has to create internally for you to just be able to walk around and not gravity take over and all these different things, it's insane. The same thing happens with a car. I know we're not, planes are faster than cars, but the same thing happens in a car. So that means it's like wear and tear on your joints. Also, like when you're traveling, for some reason, you don't drink enough water. You don't feel like eating the right things.
when there's a champagne bar in the first class lounge in London Heathrow.
Right. Yeah. And so you're dehydrating your body. You're not doing typically the things that will help. You know what
Right.
I mean? You might be like Mike, drinking champagne.
Invest in liquid IV if you're gonna travel often.
Oh, okay. There we go. See?
So much hydration, so quick. Even if you're starting to feel a little sick, just getting hydrated, it's great.
Yeah, yeah. It's a lot of things. You have to the tour to master touring, it really comes down to really like mastering your body in a sense.
It's a balance between budget and quality of life.
Yes.
You can't like, if you really want to be budget conscious on tour, just don't eat the whole time, right?
Right.
But that's not
That's true.
quality of life.
Yeah, but that's not quality.
tour if you don't eat anything, you know?
Yeah, and again, like, I know we're like, there's a spectrum of people here, right? Like, there we have the people that have been in the industry for a while, and then there's some people that are just, like, new and starting out, right? Look, like, I started it was just me and my Prius, and I went on tour by myself, and I drove the longest drive I ever did by myself straight. I'm not talking about I ever like, I stopped for gas and to grab some food, but, like, I'm telling you, I did it straight, was 25 and a half hours, Tulsa to Tahoe. And I had to drive it straight because I wasn't gonna make the show if
Yeah,
I didn't. So, I understand and that was the cheapest way to do it too. So, I understand, like, trying to maximize your dollar and, in the beginning, you have time, right? When you start getting into this, it then becomes, I don't have the time to do that, so then I have to pay the money, right? So, you're always having this balancing act between the 2 of those things.
right. And you'll make mistakes and you'll learn from it. You'll be like, "Oh,
Right.
that was a real money pit." Or you'll understand like, "Oh, dang, that was so strenuous that like my body's too tired to even sit and do an interview right now." And you'll make mistakes and you'll learn. It's just something to be aware of. It's not
Right.
always playing the martyr and being like, "Oh, well, it's you, playing the martyr in the sake of having to always like be the lowest on budget. Sometimes you got to pay a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, which is fine. Okay, so we've covered so many things in this. I think it would be smart for us to end it here
Yeah,
because I feel like there's so much information in here already. And I think you and I need to also figure out when are we doing this again
yeah.
so we can really get into some of this stuff because I mean, even I wrote down like notes. Like I've written down like some of the things he said, especially on the travel hack side. I was like, what the frick is points guy? Like I was like,
We can get into different things a little bit at different times. Like, I mean, it's funny because even just sitting at my studio here, like, there's little things that never leave my side. We could really get into like my drill
mm,
guitar. Like, I don't ever
oh my
change
God.
like this. No
Same.
presents.
Yep.
Come
Oh
on.
yeah, same. I have a drill of basically a drill form as well. Like I don't crank. Who's
No. Same
cranking
for
anymore?
drums. I
Like
have a
it's
I have
and it's
one.
like $30.
Yeah.
Well, yours is probably not $30, but mine's like $30.
No, my drill is so cheap. It was like a
Oh,
$20, and then that bit came for free because whatever band I was touring with at the time had a Planet Waves sponsorship. So great.
right.
I win.
So anyways, okay, so there's so much information here, guys. I'm going to make sure to put all the links in the description below so that you can check out some of the things that Mike was mentioning and just really help your tour life and getting things on point because I think it's really important that the more places you can save money, uh the more money that you can put in your pocket and really start becoming a full-time musician. It's really smart on having to do all that. And second, I just want to say thanks, Mike, for being on here.
Thanks for having me.
Seriously, like
You gave
we've
me
been friends for so long.
yeah, so
So,
long.
so long. And you've always just been a really great friend to me. Always came through like whenever I needed you, was always just like a good friend. Anytime I was in a city and you were in that city, it's like we always met up and hang out. And like you're just a person that has been constant in my life the last 7 years. So I just really appreciate and I appreciate you coming on here.
Oh my goodness, you're the best. I appreciate you. Thanks for having
Absolutely. All right, guys. That's this week's podcast. We'll check you guys out next week. Try to do some of those travel hacks and figure out your credit card scenario because that's really smart. All right. Peace.